Okay, let's just dive right into this because it's a core human experience. I'm sure you've dealt with it. We all have.
Hmm.
I'm talking about traditional goal setting. January 1st hits, the intentions are great, the list is a mile long, and then, well, then life happens.
Right. And that motivation just fades.
It fades so fast. By mid-March, maybe even mid-February for some of us, we're distracted, we're discouraged, and we're just kind of wondering why we bothered in the first
It's
place.
like trying to patch up a crumbling wall. You're just
Mhm.
continuing a failing path. And, that's the definition of insanity, right?
Yeah.
Trying the same thing and expecting a different result.
Exactly. And our source material today, which draws really heavily from Donald Miller's work, it just cuts right to the heart of that failure.
It does. It says, look, if you're serious about this, you don't need small adjustments. You need a fundamentally different approach, a
Okay.
clean break.
Just start over.
You need to start over. And it all begins with what he calls the big lie.
The big lie. Okay, what is it?
It's that subconscious belief that life is something that happens to you, not something you can steer and change. It's this idea that you're just a passenger.
A victim of circumstance.
Yeah.
And that mentality it's shockingly common, isn't it? Even in people who look really successful on the outside.
Oh, absolutely. They might be high achievers, but they're deeply stressed because deep down, they don't believe they actually have control. And the sources are so clear on this. The people who believe that lie the least are the ones who succeed.
So this framework, which his company Storyline has used with, what, over 25,000 people, it's not just about setting better goals.
No, it's a complete paradigm shift. It's about recalibrating how you see your own power, your own agency.
And you really see that power when you look at his own story. The before and after it's pretty stunning.
It really is. I mean, the person who wrote his famous book, Blue Like Jazz,
Mm.
by his own admission, he was intensely unhappy, about 150 pounds heavier, lonely, codependent.
Wow, so that's the starting point.
That's the start. And now, he's healthy, happily married, his business has quadrupled. He even says he's glad he isn't that old, messed up me that people sometimes get nostalgic for.
So this is a framework for a real overhaul, not just theory.
Exactly. So our mission today is to pull out those 5 core principles, the bricks, as he calls them, that came out of his backpack.
How do we get from feeling stuck and overwhelmed to actually embracing that kind of intentional ownership?
Well, it starts by freeing yourself from this fixed idea of who you are. And that leads us straight into the very first principle.
Okay, principle 1, you were designed to change.
Yeah, and this one just immediately attacks that lie, that people are fixed beings.
Yeah.
The idea that the version of you who failed last year is the only version available this year.
That's a powerful idea because we cling to our identity, especially our mistakes.
We do. But Miller is blunt. He says, if something doesn't change, it's dead. Change isn't an anomaly. It's the natural state of being alive.
The sources use some great analogies for this, right? Like from nature.
Incredible analogies. I mean, just think about your own body. The
Mhm.
skin you have right now will not be the same skin you have in 7 years. You are constantly physically regenerating,
Whether you want to or not.
whether you want to or not. And it's daily, too. He points out that sleep is like this odd kind of coma, and when you wake up, it's a do-over, a hard reset.
So every morning is a chance to stop being the person you were yesterday.
Exactly. Or you see it in the seasons, right? The renewal of spring after winter. We are wired for this. We're wired for metamorphosis.
So for you, the listener, the implication here is just, it's so freeing. It means you get a clean slate, you can let go of past mistakes, you don't have to be trapped in that old identity.
The real barrier, then, isn't your capacity to change. It's whether you believe you're supposed to. Once you internalize that, the whole struggle shifts.
It moves from can I change to what's stopping me?
Precisely. And that reframing leads directly into the next piece, which is all about internal accountability. This is principle number 2. You are in a relationship with yourself. Make it a healthy one.
Okay, this one sounds complex.
It is, but it's so powerful. It gets at why we're so driven by external approval. We do things, we chase success so that other people will tell us we're okay.
And when they don't, we crash.
We crash, we feel like failures. And Miller realized we operate like 2 people inside. The person who acts and the judge who's watching.
And he had this epiphany from a friend he respected, right?
Yeah, a friend who was just genuinely kind, disciplined, humble. And he realized, I respect him because he does respectable things.
Ah, so the same logic applies internally.
Exactly. You can earn your own respect by doing respectable things. It creates a self-sustaining positive feedback loop.
So give us an example. The ice cream one is great.
Right. You're having a rough night. You want to eat a half-gallon of ice cream. You know you'll regret it. You just pause and ask yourself, if I skip this, would I have a little more respect for myself in the morning?
And if the answer is yes.
You skip it, and you get this little internal win. You're rewarding yourself with self-respect, which lasts way longer than the sugar rush.
And that applies to bigger things too, like not snapping at someone or not being a people pleaser when it costs you.
Right. You're banking these respectable decisions, and you start to trust the judgment of your own internal critic because you're earning it. The motivation becomes, I will respect you more if you make a better choice.
And that's a shield then against needing everyone else's opinion because their opinions are, well, they're not objective, are they?
Almost never.
Yeah.
People see you through a filter of what benefits them. They might want you to stay small. Their opinion is not a good foundation to build your identity on.
So if we know we can change and we're building that self-respect, what about all the stuff in our lives that's holding us back? That brings us to a really controversial one. Principle 3. Sometimes it's okay to quit.
And this feels almost like heresy in our hustle culture, doesn't it? But it's a direct response to this widespread boredom. The stats say over half of Americans aren't inspired by their jobs. That's a lot of wasted life.
But wait, we're always told quitting is for losers. That grit and resilience mean you push through anything. How do you square that?
That's the key distinction. This isn't about quitting when things get hard. It's about quitting things that are soul-crushing and pointless. The idea is twofold. One, get rid of things that just don't need to be there. And two, realize you don't have to be stuck.
The source gives that great example of his friend Bob Goff.
Oh, it's fantastic. He quits something every Thursday. Sometimes it's small, like biting his nails. Sometimes it's huge, like resigning from an assault board. It's an exercise in agency.
And it forces you to challenge your assumptions, like the friend who thought work had to be miserable because it's in the Bible.
Right. And Miller's response was perfect. He said, the Bible says work is hard, not miserable. There's a huge difference. Hard work is rewarding. Miserable work is just degrading.
And that brings up the security versus passion debate. The source quotes Warren Buffett,
who said successful people say no to almost everything. If you say yes to the wrong things out of fear, you have no room left for the right things.
So the question for you, the listener, is pretty stark. Were you created to be born, be bored, then be buried? How many of your choices are just about security? Quitting the things that drain you isn't failure, it's a strategy.
And very often the things we need to quit are actually people, or at least the dynamics with certain people. Which brings us to number 4.
Principle 4. You will become like the people you hang out with. And this is stated as a fact, not an opinion.
It's the conglomerate idea. You are the average of the 5 or 10 people you spend the most time with. The source claims this affects your life more dramatically than diet or exercise.
That's a huge claim.
It is, but think about it. There's this story about a friend's small business. He had one really difficult, cynical team member acted like a 7-year-old. And that one person slowly corrupted the entire company culture.
So the toxicity isn't contained.
It's never contained. If you hang out with bitter, cynical people, you will become more bitter and cynical. Their worldview just, it seeps into your own self-talk.
Okay, but this is where I think people get really uncomfortable. What about grace? What about forgiveness? Aren't we supposed to help people, not just abandon them?
That is the critical nuance. You're right. Grace is essential. But the source makes a key distinction. It's about not misappropriating grace by joining someone and forfeiting your own mission.
So it's not about being callous, it's about protecting your own character.
Exactly. The source even uses the story of the rich young ruler, whom Jesus grieved for but ultimately let walk away. The message is, you have to protect yourself from becoming someone you don't want to be.
And the sources do bring up a couple of complications. First, people you can't just avoid, like a coworker or even a spouse.
Right. And in that case, it's not about avoidance. It's about setting really firm, healthy boundaries and consciously refusing to absorb their negativity. You can have compassion without taking on their poison.
The second complication is just different tolerance levels.
Yeah, Miller admits he's very easily affected by cynical people, so he needs to keep his distance. Someone else might be less impressionable. You have to know yourself.
So you have to be strategic. You have to actively choose your inner circle.
You do. Which brings us to the final and maybe most practical application of all this. Principle 5.
Principle 5. I can only do 3 big things in a year. That's it. Just 3.
This one hits home for a lot of people. Miller says the other reason people lack impact is they're trying to do way too much.
Mm.
They've got 15 good projects going, which means nothing ever really gets finished.
Instead of finishing the two or three that could actually change everything, we have to go back to that Buffett quote. Successful people say no.
This is all about opportunity cost. It's an economic idea, but for your life. The cost of doing one great thing is not being able to do the one amazing thing.
And you have to be willing to let go of the great to get to the amazing.
And Miller lives this. He says he intentionally turns down endorsements, interviews, board seats, all good things, to protect his 3 big projects for the year.
And what would those be? Like an example?
In a given year, it might be write 1 business book, launch 1 new division of his company, and write 1 year-long email series. That's it. Anything else is a distraction.
That must sound so arrogant, maybe? Or harsh to some people?
It does. The source says it will ruffle some feathers. He tells a story about a nonprofit leader who just shamed him for not endorsing a book. But that's the point. Other people focused on their goals don't care if they distract you from yours.
You have to be the guardian of your own focus.
You're the only one who will be. And on a daily level, he uses a planner that only allows for 3 major tasks. He says after 3, his mind is toast anyway. Trying for a 4th just diminishes the quality of all 4.
The benefit, though, is that you actually finish the important stuff, the things that can change your world.
And that's really the synthesis here. All 5 of these principles, accepting change, building self-respect, quitting the junk, curating your circle, and focusing, it's all about a paradigm shift.
Moving from having life happen to you happening to life. It's all about intentional self-selection.
Right. And we should end with this one final provocative thought from the sources. This idea of focusing on just 3 big projects a year. It can sound selfish.
Like you're not helping enough people.
Exactly. But the source flips that script. It suggests the change you could bring by finishing those few critical projects might benefit thousands. So you should ask yourself this. What is the cost to the world if you don't maintain your focus? Maybe it's actually selfish not to.